name is Chandra Zeman-Belinsky. Thank you for joining us. I'm the Family and Consumer Sciences Agent with NDSU Extension here in Burleigh County. Today we're showing a recipe on making light strawberry jam, perfect for those of you who don't need extra sugar in your diet. This recipe is super easy, calls for only 3 ingredients. We have strawberries. It's important to pick strawberries that are just at their peak ripeness or maybe slightly before, because pectin is perfect then for jams and jellies and soft spreads. Our second ingredient is today going to be an unsweetened white grape juice, no sugar added, because that's the nature of our recipe. And then we also have a commercial pectin. This is actually a powder pectin specifically for no sugar added jams and jellies. Okay, so 3 easy ingredients. Let's get started. For this recipe, we're going to combine 4 cups of strawberries and 1 cup of unsweetened white grape juice in a 68-quart saucepan. The first thing I need to do is I need to crush my berries. And then you actually want to measure the fruit product after it's crushed. So it's actually 4 cups of crushed strawberry. I am going to measure now. Okay, use my cutting board. It's not very common. Okay, just going to take a little bit because our third one wasn't very full. Okay, I'm going to...
Now that we've added our main ingredient, crushed strawberries, also add 1 cup of unsweetened white grape juice and 3 tablespoons low or no sugar needed pectin. You could also add 4 tablespoons depending on the natural level of pectin in the strawberries.
After boiling, contents of recipe, and we are just at a boil now. As I stir constantly, it stops boiling, so I'm going to let it cook here. Different berries, different batches of berries have different amounts of innate water. And so you may have to, after doing your spoon test with the cold metal spoon, dipping it in and seeing if it still drips, you may have to continue to boil a little bit so that you have the right consistency. And that's what we're doing. We're just condensing a little bit more here. This is not necessary for food safety. It's more of a quality. We want the right texture. The jelly is done when the syrup forms drops that flow together and hang off the edge of a spoon. We're going to test it in just a moment here again. So all of this steam you see in front of me is the natural water from our product as well as some from the juice. So the more that this leaves, the stronger our gel will be. Now I'm going to ask our intern, Shania, to help us fill jars. She has been very helpful in the preparation of getting this video out to you. I should also credit Mindy, who's on the camera behind. Okay, Shania, why don't we start, and it's not an easy process, it's hard to make it look easy, grabbing jars. We don't have a full canner because our recipe only calls for 6 half pints, so some of our jars are laying on their side in the canner, so that can make it a little bit more difficult. For jam and jelly, some people do recommend to buy the smaller canner. Most of us don't want to have 2 canners sitting around, so you can use the larger one like we are today. Okay, so as we fill our jars of product, we use our funnel. And we have a ladle here. And we're going to fill our product up to just a 1/4 inch below the top of the rim. All right, I'm going to measure. Right now I'm going to measure the head space on this jar here. We're going to see where a 1/4 inch lands. So I'll take my funnel out, switch it over to the next jar. It was on centimeters there. There we go. All right. Took it off just a little bit early. So we're just under that first lip. 1/4 inch of head space is actually the least amount out of any preservation product. Sometimes it calls for a 1/2 inch, sometimes it calls for 1 inch. So 1/4 inch is not very much, so your jars are pretty full. Well, now this is the first time I've done this recipe where I didn't quite have enough product. So that means today us gals can try this. We'll just use this one right away because it won't seal. What happens when you don't have enough product to fill a jar? So now we have 5 full jars and then one that isn't quite full. I would go ahead and process it with the rest of them, and you won't have the seal that you're expecting for it to be shelf stable. Leave it in your refrigerator and consume it within about 3 to 4 weeks. Okay, we're all done there. I like to use regular old paper towels to wipe the rims so that we make sure that there's nothing in the way impeding the seal. Now this one has quite a bit in the way here. And then Shania, as I do that, go ahead and use the magnetic lifter. These have been washed and are in warm water. And then we'll do the bands in just a moment together. We'll do those last, okay? So now we have removed our product from the heat. We have added that to the jars. We have actually filled our jars. We put the lids on and centered them. I have removed this lid because I would like everybody to see that there is not much foam on the top of this product. Foam is not our friend when it comes to jams and jellies, primarily because what's suspended within the foam? Air. Therefore, it adds to your headspace and can affect your seal. And I'm just using this spoon and skimming off the foam. All right, so let's talk about a little bit about headspace here. We talked about wiping the rim, even if you don't think you need to. It's really important so that nothing's inhibiting that seal. You center your lid on the jar, just as we've done, and when you apply the band, okay, this is the second part of the lid. Remember, we like those 2-part lids. When you apply the band, we always recommend fingertip tight. You don't need to get those utensils that indicate, how tightly to close the jar, unless you really, from a handicap, reasoning, need the assistance. What we recommend is to use the ring finger and the thumb to your natural ability to tighten. It's very important that these aren't on too tight at this point, because as you water bath process, you want that air to escape to create the vacuum. You don't want this lid on too tightly in the beginning. And so I am going to put it on and then tighten it to about this strength here with using these 2 fingers. Okay, now our next step is to actually place our filled jars into the canner. The canner will have about 1 to 2 inches of water above the jars. Okay, so you want enough to cover the jars, at least 1 inch above. And we will begin the timer for the water bath canning process when the water reaches a boil after the jars are within the canner. We want to process our filled jars in a boiling water canner for about 10 minutes, adjusting for altitude. A lot of people don't realize that the altitude in which you live is very important for when you're canning. Your local extension office, no matter what state you're in, will be able to tell you your altitude. In Burleigh County here, where we live in Bismarck specifically, we process for about 2,000 to 3,000 feet, which in this case for this recipe is 10 minutes. We're going to let our product, we need it to boil here, and after we have boiled for 10 minutes, all you do is you remove your jars with your jar lifter, place them on a flat surface away from drafts. You don't want that heat exchange to happen too quickly. You want those jars to be allowed to cool naturally. Try not to disturb them for about 12 hours, and you want to check for your seal after 24 hours. Lids should not be able to flex up and down. You can tell that they're sealed when they remain constant and they don't flex. Okay, well, we have now allowed our jam product, our light strawberry jam, to boil for 10 minutes. We're now done with the water bath canning process. I'm going to turn our burner off and remove the jars from the boiling water. Okay, so we have a flat, dry surface where we can set our jars so that they can remain untouched. Okay, I'm not using my hot pads because I can handle the steam at this point. Okay, this jar here was not totally full. Okay. So we have 6 half pints. If you're concerned about safety, you can use these. It makes it difficult for me to use this lifter. Okay, great. We're going to let these sit for at least 12 hours undisturbed. I'm going to check our seals after 24 hours because they probably won't be sealed immediately. Part of the process of sealing actually involves the cooling process with the vacuum that is created. So that's why it's so important to leave your jars undisturbed. All right, well, we have finished water bath canning our light strawberry jam product. We've yielded 6 half-pint jars of product here. So it was a quick and easy hour. Stay tuned for our other videos. We will also be working with pineapple chili salsa as well as pressure canning green beans. Check out our website, and thanks again for joining us.